So as this hovel begins to be dug out, Kian, you're seeing roots of dripping blackened ichor twist their way into this hiding place. You guys all hear screams of voices echoing off of Mod Podge walls and thatch roof cottages of Solithar.
Is that water not? Does that water not go anywhere where we could follow it?
This mostly is a smaller tunnel. We could possibly open it up a little bit more. And in this time, like some of these tree creatures are now beginning to like reach in. You guys are having to like dodge limbs and things.
Rock mover, do you want to open this tunnel up a little bit?
Yeah, Eli runs over and starts kind of just pounding away at the opening where the water escapes, clearly going somewhere.
Okay.
To see if there's an exit to be made.
Sure, give me a physical check. And kind of imagining you're amplifying it with your magical scrolls here. Poof.
That was a 4. 25.
Okay. You're able to describe this, but what I will say is that as you kind of like, you're creating literally like a delicately mined tunnel with each fist impact as it lands. You're also starting to hear a lot of like creaking and groaning as more of these trees begin to like take root into this hovel with you guys. But there is beginning to be a tunnel expanding in front of you. What does that look like as you lead the charge?
It's pretty rough. Definitely it's not smooth edge. There's jagged rocks in all directions, including below. Eli's just kind of tunneling through the weakest points, big enough for human beings to pass, or humanoid beings to pass through. So it's really just like a gaping maw of a cave, basically.
Yeah, and as you guys see the blood dripping from Eli's hands, he continues to just hammer into this tunnel system.
And so Una thinks that maybe she can, not even knowing if the snow that she could create could maybe wither or stop some of the roots from actually entering in, or holding them back just by the cold and holding them that way.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and give me a magic check with that. Or spirit.
Spirit.
Depending on how you see magic, that is.
Yeah, well, true. So 4.
As they're working on this, Elaine would be shooting fire at any branches that are reaching into the area.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and roll for it.
I don't know.
It's not good. 9.
9. You begin freezing up these parts of the walls, making it kind of hard for all of these branches to move through. Before I continue narrating that, Lane, what did you get on your...
19.
19. You're successfully, like, sending off a barrage of flaming jets and balls of fire that explode upon impact, reeling some of these creatures back. What you do notice is off in the distance, some of your fireballs that are missing are creating bouts and eruption of flame all in this village around you. And back to you, Una, as you're like kind of seeing this and trying to freeze it all up, you don't realize that as you turn to try to run, you've frozen your feet in place. Yours and Moore's.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Could I warm where they've frozen?
Sure, if you want to roll for it.
Okay. 27.
Okay. Go ahead and describe how this looks.
With one hand, I'm still shooting out upward toward the branches. With the other hand, I'm emitting kind of heat toward where their feet is, to try and start melting it so that we can get away.
Okay. Some time takes... a little bit of time passes, and as some of these trees begin to like back up and are more strategically trying to jump in and put hands on you guys, you do successfully melt those down, and then the heat begins to cracken and blister into the rock, almost nearly multiplying it into a hot burning liquid. Additionally, during this time, as you are unfreezing more, he gets grabbed by one of the trees, and that tree begins walking and turning around.
Okay. So you're still pounding out the tunnel. Okay.
I'm prepared and ready to, close some roots down behind us if we can get into this tunnel.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys are willing to leave more behind, but
If the tunnel can get us outside of the main, part of the fighting, but I think at some point we do need to try. I mean, we can't just, we've got these scrolls and all of this power. We should at least try and save or help the townspeople, and certainly more, who's rescued us into this area. But I agree, I think we can't do it from where we're at, so.
And risk getting caught again? I thought the whole point was to get the scrolls away at the cost of whoever that may be.
Well, I don't wish to. I didn't know that the trees were going to attack the entire city either, though. I thought we could just slip out unknown.
True.
Now that we're confronted with, and we've got the power to do something. We've got the scrolls to be able to do a little bit more than we ever could have done before.
So this is our final stand, is kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, where are we going to run to?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we've got to, and certainly I want to save more.
Okay, then I ask the nearby trees that will listen to try and wrap up the roots of the ends that won't.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and roll for it.
22?
Okay. Go ahead and describe how this is looking from, because there are some still healthy, non-controlled trees around.
Seeing the worry in Una's eyes at more being snatched kind of puts me into a mindset to say maybe escape is not in the cards. And so I wheel around after having the intent to try and, seal us away and get us out, and instead speak to the trees in a way that I reach my hands up into whatever mud or whatever's left of this thatched hole and just beg and plead the nearby trees to do what they can to wrap their roots around and grab onto these ends as they try and get away with our friends.
And they kind of you feel like these roots begin to crawl up all through your arms. It's like they're being drawn in by this magical energy, and off in the distance, you're probably about 10 foot into this tunnel, turning around. Eli has dug a good 25 feet into this. Looking back forward, you see that they're kind of out in the distance, still moving around, but you do eventually begin to see a couple of them getting lashed from behind, and you hear timbering sounds as they fall over. You currently still lashed in these roots, though.
Okay. Elaine, burn them while they're down.
All right, direct everything I've got at the tree that's holding more.
Okay.
Specifically the place between where the tree is and where he's holding it, sort of its arm or branch.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and roll it.
25.
Okay. Very easily a success here. You do pretty much at what seems to be an elbow joint on this creature, singe that off, and as that branch falls, it kind of is released from his clutches, but as he hits the ground, you can see him barely moving. He's moving, but barely.
Okay. Oh gosh.
Eli, nix the tunnel plan. We're not getting out of here. Help us out.
Were you guys relaying everything that's happening to Moore while I was digging, or?
What do you mean?
Because I imagine I don't know what's happening to Moore right now.
Well, yeah, no, I don't have time to explain what just happened, but
okay.
I'm telling you the tunnel idea's failed. We're not getting out.
We're just gonna fight our way through?
Last stand.
All right.
This is what you wanted. Fight to the
Let's
death.
take them down.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Okay, so as Eli comes rushing out, jumping and flying nearly over the wreckage that was Moore's shop, Flower kind of still slowly wrestling in the air. You look around and being kind of one of the first people out of this shop area, the entire village of Solithar is in dismay. Like, they're all along the edges of this town, this city. Like, you see other people, like, getting picked up and, like, slammed into cobblestone walls. Some of the cattle and some of the farms, like, being trampled underfoot. You see a lot of houses that have either caught or fully engulfed in flames all in this area. And additionally, more kind of resting in between two trees that are like bound by other trees. He slowly like moves and turns and looks at you in the eye.
Just being absolutely consumed by righteous fury, Eli bolts headfirst into the nearest tree creature to just try and tackle, and mostly his idea being, how much do I have to do to take down one?
Okay.
And just tries to like rip it apart.
Sure, roll for it.
$22.
22. How does this look like, utilizing like the power of these scrolls here? Like, how does this look for you in this tackle movement?
As Eli kind of comes out of what was once a little contained space, but is now more a pit of this bunker, crawls his way up out, briefly assesses the situation, just targets the nearest tree creature, and with a burst of like ice-like structure underneath him, almost propelling him forward, and using that momentum, just barrels into one of these creatures' arms, grabbing and ripping and pulling, and it's just the splintering sounds echoing, though drowned out by the sounds of fire and chaos.
And while all this is going on, Una is watching all the townspeople and how they're being absolutely obliterated in all of this, and for no reason except just being attacked. So she wants to create a way for them to, at least as many as she can get out, to escape. And so she's calling on the snow and the wind and to create a tunnel for them to start to be hidden, and to start leaving the city unharmed.
Okay. And as you guys kind of look up and see this thing happening, first of all, you notice Eli does successfully almost like bear hug and shred one of these trees in half, like ice almost encrusting his shoulders at this point. But as he kind of hops down and lands on the ground, you notice that like his arm is out of socket and one part of his collarbone is basically sticking up out of his shoulder. You take 3 points of damage from that.
Dang.
Una, go ahead and give me a roll for your wintry check.
Yeah, 20.
20? You do, kind of creating like this ribbon of bristling wind and snow, create like a tunnel that is picking up like some people's cloaks and pushing them off into a direction outside of the city. But as this continue to flow and flow and flow, you start to notice that some of them are freezing inside of this ice and this wind. Probably rescuing about 3, but as this continues, you halt the spell, and as you do, it hurts. It hurts to stop letting this energy go, and you notice 2 people frozen, standing in the middle of the square. You take 1 point of damage from that.
Do we see Dion? Do we see Dion?
You don't see him anywhere. Are you looking around trying to like make heads or tails? Because this is chaos right
Well,
now.
I'm in a pit and I'm surrounded by roots. I can't exactly see much anything.
Not really.
Yeah. Okay.
From your perspective here, no.
Yeah. Does anybody have eyes on Dion? I call out just into the ether.
Elaine's climbing out of the shack, trying to see if he can find Dion and where the closest tree entity is.
Okay. Easily enough that like the closest tree to you is the one that you had like singed its arm off to drop Moore, who's still on the ground. if you're wanting to like get a keen eye to try to pick him out of the crowd, you don't see him in the near vicinity. You will need to make a mind roll for that.
And what is Dorcha doing all this?
Dorcha more or less is like sticking as close to Elaine in this moment, and you see that she has a look of apprehension and fear and wanting to help, but doesn't know what to do. She's kind of in shock.
Yeah, just desperately looking around for Dione. Okay, it's 15.
Okay. 15 just kind of creating these updrafts of heat, like wafting, burning air all around, like clearing out some of the smoke, clearing out some of like the tail end of this frozen ribbon. You don't see Dione in specific, but looking to the north, you begin to see a hurried, numerous amount of figures running south towards you guys. They're pretty far away, but you can tell they're wearing robes like the mages in Turach does. Additionally, these wafting of waves that you're kind of casting all around, it is fanning the flames on some of these buildings, and they rise and they rise.
Are we able to see each other at all? I mean, are we?
You guys are within like a variable of like 50 feet from all of each other.
Okay.
Okay, then I can yell to anybody in the vicinity. I don't see Dione, but it looks like the mages are coming from Turach.
Then we'll take them when they get here. And Eli launches himself closer, like in the direction of Moore, hoping to achieve his safety, but just ripping up anything in his path that he can get within range of. Ice blocks on his fists, just punching through trees.
Okay.
You can.
Yeah, go ahead and roll for it.
25.
You're like it's kind of obscene how much like there's the icicles of frozen blood kind of cascading from your hands and wrists as you're just shredding through this other tree that was right next to Moore. You'll take another point of damage, but you do destroy the one that's next to him as more begin to more ints begin to walk into this area. You're now starting to see the good ints like also trying to move into this area. They've just basically gotten past from behind you and are moving forward, but you also see that they're starting to catch fire. More as you approach him, Eli, basically like you kind of like clasp his hand, some of the frozen blood smearing onto his, and he looks at you and he's like, I can't feel my legs. You guys have to just leave me. Just leave me here. You cannot stay here with those scrolls. Leave.
You still pose a threat alive, and if you're alive, you're coming with us.
Then kill me.
Eli hoists him up over his shoulder as best he can and tries to head towards the edge of the city.
No, not a big roll required. You do that. I mean, you guys have been kind of utilizing this. You guys definitely see as Eli like picks him up and pulls him over his shoulder, like his legs are just dangling there.
Okay, I'm gonna use my root mecha to try and basically grow and create a tangle brush from where the Asari are trying to assail the city.
That's pretty freaking sweet. Yeah, roll for it.
Okay.
Mecha roots.
12.
You succeed in kind of, and almost like you said, like with the mecha type situation, you're pulling on these roots that kind of have you clasped in this tunnel. Mm-hmm. And as you do, you pull more and more earth from it and rip these roots out from its own system and begin to pull yourself out of the ground with these roots. They dive in and begin twisting and tangling, creating all these bramble bush deterrents to the north. At this rate, like the mages have crossed over one of the main bridges from the river and are starting to spill into the city. For a moment, these branches do begin to block their way, but as some of them begin casting like shards and sheets of ice to cut through them, you notice that you're starting to feel those brambles' pain. every time it gets cut down, every time it gets burned or frozen and crushed, you're feeling that pain from it. And you take 2 points of damage.
And seeing Kian work against the mages, Elaine starts casting fireballs toward the mages, just past the branches so as not to ignite what's connected to him, but just directly at the mages. Anything and everything that can catch fire, he's throwing at it.
Okay, roll it.
14.
14. Just sending arcing balls of fire over all of these people and these buildings that are still ignited. They land into some of them. You see half sphere barriers of ice begin to block some of them, but one of them lands square into the center of the group, and you see almost like this entire person's frame melt off of its skeleton, and as fire erupts all around it, you get this deep welling anger as you just fire and fire and fire and fire, and you guys begin to notice like the palms of Elaine's hands are getting orange and then yellowish and then white hot, and you barely notice this in your anger, but you're beginning to singe even the hands that craft these fireballs itself, and you take 2 points of damage.
Okay, while this is happening, Una wants to stir up a windstorm to confuse the mages that are coming in to the town, blinding them and scattering them away from the city and from entering it at all.
Okay, roll it.
Right. Come on.
17?
17.
Okay. You do, instead of focusing like on specific areas, you start to create like a large haze all about the city. You guys see Una just kind of like spinning her hands in the air and crafting the air to bend to her will. It's actually not a dissimilar form that you had seen Diome when he froze you all in black ice, except hers is like this pearlescent white that begins to sprinkle and dapple all throughout the town. And then it gets denser and denser and denser. And you guys start to tell that some of the townsfolk that were beginning to make it out, they can't pass through. And a lot of the wizards that were still on the mages that were still on the northern side are trapped in just kind of blurred images behind this dome. But the ones still alive are picking themselves up and getting even closer to you guys. And it's at this point that you see like a darkened, blackened, and purple set of robes that seem familiar almost appear from inside of the fold of these mages. And you guys definitely recognize this as Diome.
So finally seeing Diome, kind of getting eyes on him, I'm going to try to use the roots that have kind of encrusted around me and let them drop to the ground and kind of snake their way over to where Diome is in an attempt to snare his feet where they are.
Okay, yeah, roll it. Okay. With a 12, you successfully like transfer like your root mecha from your arms, and as they descend down through your legs and into the ground, kind of snaking through all of this soot and ash, beginning to form thick layers on the ground. They spike up through the ground and they latch onto him, and you see him pull out from his robe the 13th scroll, and he essentially like takes his hand and goes like this, and all of those branches freeze and immediately drop off and break, and he continues that as he keeps stepping forward, and you think you can hear a faint laughter wafting in the wind.
Do I take damage from those roots dying?
Nope.
Okay.
Not this time.
That's good.
They weren't attached to you this time.
Okay, so we've got everything either on fire or frozen, or in absolute shatters, and now we've got the worst mage of all, the lead Asari that's creating all of this, heading our way, and he's got one scroll.
We've got the rest of them. Dorcha pipes up. Why not end this now?
Yeah, Una, take all 12 of them.
Oh, just
blast him.
Yeah. Okay. So
end him.
Yeah. I gather them all up.
You're not a fake Una, right?
He says, coughing on smoke and smog.
I'm scarred.
Yes, you are. Are you for real?
Yeah.
You're like poking at my face.
Yeah, pinching you as I hand them over.
Exactly.
As Una kind of like gathers all of these scrolls up, you guys begin to notice that this like frozen hailstorm of a dome around the city gets thicker and thicker and thicker, and almost as if freezes into a sphere.
Let's buy Una some time. Let her craft the biggest snowball she could possibly make, and give her the time to do it.
And just direct it toward him and encase him in all of it.
Something.
Yeah.
But we'll buy you time to get that prepared.
Okay.
Let's go, guys. And I'm gonna just make a beeline for Dion.
Okay.
Same. Elaine's running toward Diane.
And Torture pursues you right on your heels. What are you doing?
Yeah, Eli's following suit, but quickly getting distracted by every enemy in his path. Just throwing hands.
Okay.
At whatever deserves it.
I will point out, you have hand.
Hand, yes.
That is carrying more.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, my
you've
other
got
hand
more.
is.
Yeah.
Leave more with
Good.
Una.
You can watch him, right? You're fully capable.
He can't go anywhere.
Yeah. Just prop him. Pop him right there.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave more with Una, where he's likely more safe and protected.
Is he more safe?
He is more safe.
Is it secret? Okay, sorry. Okay, so yeah, booking it after the rest of these guys, like throwing hand at anyone or anything that tries to get in your way. You guys come to like this culmination of y'all charging in this direction, and at this rate, several mages have all sent a smattering of different spells off in your direction. I need everybody to give me just a general roll, either using any sort of stat that you want to logically both protect yourself and still head the charge.
I'm going to tactically think through the best route to entangle with as few mages as possible, but deal as much, and get there as quickly as I can to Diam specifically. So I'm going to use my mental capacity to navigate that particular route and kind of lead them through the thick of all of these mages without tangling with too many of them.
Okay.
11.
11?
That's good.
Yeah, 11 is good. You only take 1 point of damage in this circumstance. It's like the trees that still have made themselves useful in this area, like step in front of you as you calculate paths to get past people, like crunching one of the mages into a paste into the ground, then like reaching down a limb, you run up and get tossed over into that direction, almost making a tunnel for your allies behind you. The 1 point of damage is more or less just like singeing spells hitting you in grazing blows.
Guys, I'm feeling pretty bad, so let's see if we can do what we can to these guys. Knock them out. Knock them dead.
Heard that. Eli notices in the glimmering of the fire the sheen off of a very beautiful, ornate knocker on a door that is no longer connected to its building.
I love this.
He grabs that knocker as a handle and wields that door as both a shield and battering ram, basically. While he just pummels his way with his one arm that can still function well through every living creature in his path. Friendly, unfriendly, and every enemy creature in his path.
Give me a physical check.
I know. I'm over here making a snowball.
It's gonna be the coolest snowball. You should just make a giant snowman. What?
Oh,
16.
Nice.
With 3 dice?
That's pretty dang good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You basically freeze the door to your arm, and then that ice kind of like slowly trickles. It's almost as if like there's still a font of magic being released from you from your prior physical attempts, and just bursting through bits of other trees. Like, this must be mahogany or something, or they're just rotting trees, because you're just blasting through them at an alarming rate, jumping to and fro with one arm still like kind of just dangling down to your side. You land in a near 3-point stance with the door in front of Kian. And you are you two currently are in the thick of this ring of mages that has formed with Dion at the head. Here's this for reference.
Nice.
As a bad guy. What are you doing here?
Elaine is making his way toward Eli and Kian, just alternatively throwing elbows, shooting fire from his elbows at anything that gets in his way.
That's so cool. That's like moshing, but cooler.
Fire moshing.
Fire moshing. Whoa. 17. You guys have some inspired rolls right now.
Literally almost 3 6s.
Wow, that's very good. Yeah, so these jets of heat and flame spouting from your elbows almost serve to give you momentum. Like, you're gaining speed as you go, and then you begin to notice that also coming from his heels, there's like springing in his step as he kind of sails through the air. Like, part of this motion making centrifugal force and having you spin in a flaming like whirlwind as you hit the ground right next to your buddies.
All right, I know we're in the thick of it, but Elaine, that was badass. All right, back to it.
So charging up this spell will take some time.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do, is buy that time.
I'm gonna say that this is going to take at least 3 rolls. Describe to me like what you're imagining as you craft this spell.
Right. Because she is feeling she needs to draw in and everything is pretty dried out between the ice and between everything burning. So she's having to find any moisture that she can.
Scrap.
Yeah, she's just pulling it. She's pulling it from the ground. Anything that's melted, she's pulling it in, and it's literally she can feel it almost like she's carrying something, like she's holding something and just drawing it in, trying to pull in as much as she can and get it as cold as she can possibly get it.
Go ahead and do your first roll here.
I get them all, right?
Yeah, I was about to say.
So you get 3 plus 12.
Yeah.
All right.
You still need 3 more.
Well, she has 3, and then
Then 3. Okay,
So
yeah,
all of
that's
those-
Well, we
all
each
those.
gave her 3 scrolls.
Nice.
Okay,
pretty cool.
you're gonna count all this.
Oh my gosh.
Jeez. So,
What are you, a high-level wizard? You're a wizard, Una. That's what Jessica said. I said it louder.
30. Oh, good lord. So many numbers.
Okay.
56.
You guys don't see this at the moment, but the ice-like dome from the town, strangely like a spiked ball of magnetism, begins to melt and then form rigid, smooth, trickling lines of water, all siphoning to Una, all around. Like tendrils and tendrils of 1,000 octopi stuck together, just siphoning this melting and then refreezing water from this dome all around you. You begin charging that and creating like this dense bubble of frozen energy. And as that charges, that was roll 1. You guys have just landed into the scene.
Right, so.
Dion sees all of you, and as he starts creating like these long, twisted and jagged claws of ice, he says, "See, fellow mages, my sister was the culprit of stealing all of these scrolls. Look at her, aiding and abetting these slavish children. Come, give me your power so that we may take these dogs down." And they begin putting their hands up, like almost in a palms up, giving motion as strange wafts of energy begin to emanate from them. And he himself begins to get larger and almost encasing himself into ice, begins approaching you guys.
Okay. I'm gonna plant my staff into the ground and root it into place as stable as possible for whatever future use we may need. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with that, but I've got the staff, and perhaps one of you guys can utilize it to make your attacks cooler.
Okay. Yeah, you plant it into the ground firm and sure, and it almost, there seems to be like roots and vines beginning to wrap up around it, all around you as you hold on to it. What are you guys doing?
Is he still sucking power? Diane's still sucking power from the mages. Eileen's going to direct just a wave of fire at the mages to try and counteract that.
Roll it. 10. As you send off this wave of energy, you see a couple of them on the fringes like take this heat and begin screaming as their skin is bubbling underneath the surface. But you see that this wave mostly has been dissipated as it connects with Diome. It hisses and steams, and it just wafts off and towards the edges. What are you doing, Eli?
Eli's not super tactical or bright and very defensive. He'd just be heading straight for Diome, especially seeing him growing stronger and stronger. He's thinking, stop him now while I still can. So he is going to launch himself forward, and seeing your staff rooted in the ground, Kian, he's gonna basically use that as like a pole vault.
Neat.
To grab onto with his arm as best he can and just heave himself into momentum and sprint the rest of the way towards him, forming up the ice not nearly as strong as it was, but as best he can now, around his fist to just start pummeling with that same momentum.
If you want, I'm still holding the staff, kind of keeping it planted. You can hop my shoulders, hit the top of the staff. I can pull it back, and we can kind of just almost slingshot.
Neat.
You do that.
We do that. You go ahead and give me a roll. Go ahead and give me a roll. Mind check. You give me a physical check.
Nice.
Before you totally count that up, Eli. You got 11? Okay. Go ahead and add one more additional dice to that roll.
Nice.
Can I have to move it?
Sorry. I gave him all back to you.
My bad. 13.
13's pretty good. Kian turns and sees Eli. Eli makes contact and just slams his fist, and you nod and you just pull back this sinewed, tied, and tethered staff. Eli rushes forward and flipping onto the point where you let go, and it flings forward. His feet perfectly land on the heels in between and get launched forward. You're going shield first, and as this happens, you slam into something hard, and it fully stops you, and the two of you see that there are shards of ice and claws that have dug its way into the shield, and from side view, you see him fling his arm. You hear a sickening crunch sound as your arm breaks, and he tosses you to the side.
Oh, that was cool.
Una, give me another roll.
Yeah, I need. All right, and I'm just using these now, or am I still doing all of them?
You're still doing all of them.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yep.
All right. I know this is ridiculous.
10, 6, 7, 47.
And the original was first was 56, so you're at 103 right now. Okay. All of that frozen dome is in seconds getting rapidly depleted. You can see fractals where parts of it are melting, siphoning into that point, and while others remain frozen, and then eventually those two go along with it. A chaos, a tornado of wind and ice and energy begins to well and well and well further, and you don't notice this, and neither do you guys, but her skin becomes first cold, a white appearance to it, and then it gets harsher and bluer, and it's like your body itself is freezing. Your lips become purple and cracked, and you almost begin to lift up from the ground as you freeze, and you barely feel the touch of fingers as below you Moore looks up at you, his entire lower half of the body frozen to the ground as you rise, and he says, "Be careful, my daughter." And he continues to freeze, and he's frozen, staring at you in that place. And despite that, you look back up in a panic out in the same direction of your friends, but you can't stop what you've begun. You wish you could. You wish you could just melt all of this ice away and stop what is now welling up into an immense, infinitesimally compacted point of magical energy. What are you guys doing?
I'm trying to, continue to use the earth and the roots that I have access to encapsulate Eli and I guess shade him from further onslaught as he's very close to Dione.
Okay. Roll for it.
Magic?
Yeah.
7.
As these roots begin to spring up from the ground, you can hear a burbling laughter. You see, my mage friends, you see how they squabble over the weak, and a fan of sharpened ice knives fling in your direction. You instinctively dodge, and you only take 1 point of damage. But in this moment, the branches basically falter. A small, canopy risen and slightly giving shelter to Eli, but not fully.
Elena's trying to channel all of the buildings, everything that's on fire right now, into a single funnel of fire on Dione.
Okay. Give me a magic check. 10. You do, pulling, you see parts of flames dying down from some buildings as this rageous scream erupts from your mouth, and you plant both of your hands together, and there's a sizzling sound of heat just rising and rising and rising, and a cone, a literal cone of heat energy begins to emanate from your hands. Dorcha, right behind you, places a hand on your back. Roll another dice.
2.
So a total of 12? Mm-hmm. Okay. You begin melting parts of Dione, just slicing one of his frozen legs in twain, he leans over and tries to pull that ice back up onto himself, and you keep burning and burning, and parts of his body begin falling off. It is now getting just down to his mage robe self. He's created this font of ice-like energy, almost like a shield in front of him, as he winces against the heat, and as it begins to melt all around him.
So, what limb broke? Was it my arm?
Yeah, so you've got a dislocated arm and a broken arm.
Are they different arms?
Yes.
Dang. Floppy. Eli would move the shoulder of the broken arm and realize there's still some movement there, and wincing with pain, smeared that broken arm through the mud, freezing it in layers to create a makeshift cast for the time being.
Okay. Go ahead and roll for it.
That's pretty metal.
What would that be? Spiritual? Magic?
Yeah, magic.
6.
Okay. So you do successfully, like, freeze into place like a muddy splint, yes. What are you doing with this in that moment?
He's also going to try and relocate. One arm now a little bit more protected. Eli is going to use that, also wincing in pain, to lift the dislocated, immobile arm above his head to many of these branches and roots that have now overgrown to protect him, grasping one and lifting himself up to pull that limb, that socket back into place.
Give me a body roll. Let's see how well this works out.
Body roll.
7.
7? You force and reach up and grab limbs and pull as hard as you can. You do pop that arm back into socket, but unfortunately, as you do, you're no longer looking in the direction of the mages and Diome, and you look back and you see what could only be Una, but nearly possessed by winter and frozen ice incarnate, rising in the air like a frozen shadow of Moor underneath her. And this is when you need to roll the final.
Okay.
I like that this is a collaborative, like we're helping aid you in the fight.
Mm-hmm, I do too.
Look at Otto dices.
That one fell out. Doesn't count. Throw it again. 18, so it's 48, 49. 49.
49, 103 is 152.
Okay.
Okay. In this moment, it passes in microseconds, bullet time. Eli looking over in this direction, you see all of this frozen energy that had created this dome around Solithar well up inside of Una as she continues to raise from the ground. And the next thing that you feel are dozens of different piercing sensations, and then white, and immediately after that, black. For you two, as you're kind of hanging back and attempting to thwart Diome from proceeding any further, you hear like this high-pitched cracking sound from behind you, and as you turn and look, Dorcha says, "Get down!" The next thing that you feel is like you're being covered in layers and layers of heavy material and blackness. From Una's perspective, that nearly forever intensifying and densely growing well of energy at a certain point reaches a fulcrum and completely explodes, and you see it exploding in a circular radius from you. It's almost as if someone had taken the cap of the snowy mountains to the north and just spiked it onto the ground below you. Mm-hmm. There are rippling waves and shelves of ice sticking up in jagged motions. A furious blizzard is pouring down from the heavens above, and it just feels like the most incredible expulsion that you have ever. It is as if this releasing of energy is becoming a perpetual frozen state that not only came from you, but is a part of you, and as such almost feels living. And in these final moments of realizing in awe and ecstasy the feeling of this immense power, you look around for your friends and for your family to share in this glorious moment of defeating one so evil as Diome. And you see sheets of frozen ice covering Kian and Dorcha and Elaine. Looking over, you see, almost impaled into the ground with roots turned frozen into projectiles, several pierced holes into Eli as he is speared into the ground, frozen in nearly a block of ice, his head barely outside of spikes of ice. Down below you, more still looking back up at you with his loving green eyes, frozen in place. And as you let out the breath that you've held abated for probably since before you started charging the spell, a wave of despair and sadness seizes you. And rushing down from your point, eventually you see like a slight warming and melting spot where Dorcha, hand in hand with Elaine, begins to thaw out all of this ice. Looking ahead of them, still anticipating the danger, you see that all of the mages of Turach in that moment are frozen in freeze frames of trying to protect themselves and their faces. However, oddly enough, you don't see Diome standing there. And as you guys begin to unthaw from this protective position, you hear a desperate coughing and sputtering sound, and look over, and Eli's, as I said, in the abdomen, impaled in several places to the ground.
Melt the ice, Elaine.
If I melt the ice, he's going to bleed out.
Una, use your healing power, something. Somebody do something.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay. As Una's working, I will slowly start to melt the ice around Eli.
Okay. And as in the places where it's melting, Una touches, but I've just depleted so much of my magic. I don't know how.
You see her beginning to reach for Eli, and her hands are trembling at such an alarming rate. It's almost as if her skin becoming pallid and gray. She barely struggles to walk at this point.
Dorcha, can you help Eli?
I don't know how. I told you earlier I don't know how to heal.
Anything is helpful.
I can try, yes. And she puts a hand, trying to help you, as you're melting it, trying to abate some of those frozen, congealed spots. And as you guys kind of see the ice is letting go of Eli, where these punctures are, it's easily imaginable to be puncturing of lungs, intestines, heart, kidneys.
He's not gonna make it.
We won, though, right?
The mages have been stopped. There's no more fighting.
Diome is gone.
He's
Gone?
He's gone.
Okay.
You did
Everything's
good.
gonna be okay.
Yeah, you did good.
okay. You did great, Eli.
Yeah. We're free to be ourselves.
Yeah.
We did it.
Yeah.
Una, I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Don't blame yourself. We didn't know. How could we have known?
This was a Hail Mary from the beginning. We couldn't have done any better. I put my hand on Eli's chest where the rock is, where their stone is.
Feels oddly warm.
I love you, brother.
My family. I know, Elaine, a lot's changed for you in the past few hours, but don't ever think you didn't have a family.
You're right. I always had family.
We were right here, and we still are.
Now rest. You did a good fight. You deserve the rest.
You guys will be okay?
Yeah.
We'll be great.
We got Una.
Yeah.
You saw what she can do.
You'll be okay.
Yeah. You know I'll keep them protected.
You know I'll keep a fire in them.
I'll lead them well.
And Eli smiles. So genuine, so wide, while he closes his eyes and takes a deep breath. Though ragged it may be, to rest his head back, almost finally relaxed and calm, content.
Far off in the distance, to the north, you think you hear shouts.
I heft, or, I get Eli's body.
He's, from the waist down, still frozen, and with some melting you could abate that, but these spikes of shrapnel and wood have impaled him into rock below. This will be a struggle. Would you like to roll for it?
No, I don't want to do more harm, and if I know Eli, this is almost a monument to his final struggle. I suppose after some futile tugging and almost just a knee-jerk response to wanting to just do something with his body, I realized that this is his final resting place. I gently close his eyelids and kiss him on the forehead. I think we gotta go.
We gotta get out of here.
We can't just leave Eli like this. There's got to be a way to protect him from anything that might.
I take my staff and ask it to become a tree for the remainder of its life and plant it in one of the puncture wounds of Eli's body to spread and grow and become a life-giving tree.
Go ahead and give me a mind check.
10.
You planting the staff, it's kind of punctured through a hole through his body, not too far above his hip. It takes root and slowly begins to grow, and as your comrades basically kind of take the scrolls and form up with you, this tree begins to grow at a more rapid pace, quickly spreading its branches out over and over and over. The odd part is this tree itself in this moment does have hints of the same type of wood that your staff was made of, but it's almost as if it's siphoning life from the ground itself now and appears petrified. As it continues to grow, his body actually does get slightly pulled up with it, not by much. It continues to grow above him, but it's almost like his arms get pulled back into the trunk, and his body begins to sink further and further as his waist is completely enveloped. And just before it covers his face, it stops. And bark just grows above it from there, nearly concealing him. You can see what might be the indentation of a young man, imprinted into this tree. But to the naked eye, it seems that this tree itself was saved from the icy destruction that permeates the area around you.
And Una looks down at and she just steps back from all of the scrolls that she just used to create all of this and to what she feels like is her fault for killing Eli. She won't touch him. She's now just terrified that they're too powerful. There's too much magic to even be wielded. Even the 3 was a lot, but all of them was too much.
Yeah. What now?
I don't think these scrolls should be kept together. Anybody holding that much power is dangerous.
Yes, I agree. I think as before, if we did hold even a few of them, they can't be together.
What if we each took a set of 3? And as much as I love you guys, but scatter into the winds, into hiding, and just protect them as the last bastions of defense for this world.
I don't want to leave you all any more than I know you don't, but I think it's the only answer. I think to take the ones that we had before and leave.
If I may put my 2 cents in, though I haven't been a part of your life, I would rather have died here today than be without you again. I do not wish to scatter from you.
I don't want that either. I'd rather use the rest of the time we have left. I feel like there's a lot we should probably know about each other.
Yeah. I don't... My brother, he and I are very well connected. I don't trust myself with bearing these scrolls. I do trust my son. And I would like to join him. So maybe either the 3 of you could take one more, or maybe even somehow we leave some with Eli. But she looks up at the tree and says, not only do I not know how that's possible, but we'd be leaving them in a place where it's nearby to the danger.
I agree. I think these were Eli's scrolls.
We each take one of Eli's scrolls.
Yeah.
You're right. I would love all the opportunity in the world to get to know you better. Maybe it's time the 2 of us could head south and see if maybe your dad's still alive.
Sure.
He was kind of a crazy one. I'm not gonna get your hopes up.
There's no hope there, but I'm up for the next adventure with you.
South it is.
Eli always wanted to see what was past the killing fields to the east. And I feel like I owe it to him to see that out with his scroll. I'll take the east.
And I know of the Grey Kingdom, where there are powerful elves there, and I'd like to seek them out and garner their wisdom for perhaps what might be in the future.
I noticed, when I put my hand on Eli's chest, I did, as a keepsake, snag his stone.
You tried to pull the stone off of his chest. And the chain was, where normally it would be frozen brittle, it was almost embedded into his solar plexus, almost was fused with it. But as you place your hand in the spot where his chest would be, you do almost, just barely, feel a little bit of that warmth that you felt before. I suppose this is goodbye then.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think it's for the best. I think this is, this will, in the small way, separating and taking the scrolls, will be keeping all of Elfendom safe from the mages and from the scroll's power. We've seen what it can do.
Yeah. But you have to promise me, and you have to promise me that you'll never use them.
Never.
Yeah, there's absolutely no chance of that.
They've caused us too much grief. They deserve to never see the light of day again.
I agree.
Agreed. I do want you to know, though, whatever I find at the Grey Kingdom, if we can find a way to keep them safe, I will come looking for you.
And I'll keep watch for you.
Yeah.
I'll always keep my eyes to the west.
Yes.
Keep an eye out as well.
A calm, subtle gust of wind rustles the leaves above your heads, blowing to the east.
As you guys finish your goodbyes, there's sounds of maybe picks or scraping. Somebody's trying to carve into some of the ice in the north, and so you scatter. Months pass during your travels, and what unfolds for you three, four, including Dorja? Some of those stories are lost to time. Some of them were not but myths, conjecture about what could have been. Before we finally close this chapter, months pass. And soon they begin to call this site that was once Solothar the Immerwald, for the jagged ice chunks never melt from this moment. The tree stays, no need for care. Some say that passing by it, every so often you could hear a faint humming. And one day, at the zenith of a full moon during the winter solstice, there is a cracking sound that erupts from that tree, and a hand pulls out from it. And that's the end of this chapter. Sorry, it's very sad.
I'm sad.
I didn't think I would get so emotional.
No.
Well, I got no pleasure in being very tragic.
Yeah.
I did have pleasure in how wrapped up we all were in the story.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
Very intense.
Yeah.
Thus concludes the story lost to time of the Thieves of Turach.
Wow.
I hope all of you enjoyed watching this. This was made and cast and put together by SL Dooley and Twisted Tabletop, all alike. Until next time.
Till next time.
Yep. Next time.
I'm speechless. I'm sorry. I don't know what to say.